Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. State your name, spell your last name, I believe.
Sure. My name is Nicola Farley. Last name is Farley. I go by Nick.
All right, thank you. Mr. Farley, I'd like to take you through a bit of your background, if I may.
Sure.
When did you graduate?
Yes, I did. I graduated from Stevens Institute of Technology, Hoboken, New Jersey, back in 1987, with a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science.
All right. What did you do after graduation?
I accepted a position with the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement in Atlantic City, where I worked in the electronic games section. There, I tested electronic games and systems for compliance with New Jersey rules and regulations for use in Atlantic City casinos.
And how long were you there?
I was there for 4 years,
And did you deal with electronic gaming devices there?
every day.
Okay. After that, where did you go?
After I worked with the DGE, I accepted a position with a startup company called Gaming Laboratories International, or GLI. GLI was engaged in testing gaming devices and systems for use in regulated casino properties and regulated jurisdictions throughout the world.
Okay.
There I was testing games and systems and inspecting casinos, casino startups and things like that, and inspected some of the casinos here in Michigan, as a matter of fact, some of the tribal casinos.
Okay.
And I helped them open offices internationally in Australia and South Africa.
Stand-up gaming devices?
Yes,
A lot of experience there as well.
yes,
Okay. Did you leave there in 2000?
I did. I did. I
What
worked
did you
there
do?
for about 9 years.
Okay. And then what did you do after that?
Well, I left GLI due to family illness. My father-in-law had gotten sick. So my wife wanted to move to Ohio to help with his healthcare needs. So with that, I started my own business.
And what business is that?
That's Nick Farley and Associates Incorporated. We do business as Eclipse compliance testing.
Can you give the court general understanding of what your company does?
Sure, my company does what I've done my entire career. We test and evaluate gaming devices and systems for use in regulated jurisdictions to ensure compliance. We also help litigators, triers of fact, with game classification determination and expert testimony.
Okay. All right. So you're familiar with casino-style games,
I am, yes,
slot machines,
yes, I am,
electronic gaming devices?
yes, I am.
Familiar with electronic games that contain elements of skill-based games?
Yes, yes, we test those as well.
You mentioned you test them. Do you have a laboratory where you test them?
Yes, we actually just opened a second operation in Las Vegas last year, so we have a lab, our main lab in Ohio, where we've been operating for, this will be our 25th year, and we opened a second lab in Las Vegas last year.
And what do you do? Can you just give a brief understanding of what you do in your laboratory?
Sure, in the laboratory, manufacturers submit devices to us to test for compliance in various jurisdictions. My company is authorized as an independent testing laboratory in more than 265 jurisdictions around the world. And we test to make sure that they comply.
Have you testified as an expert in court in the area of game classification, mechanics, and analysis before?
Yes, many times, dozens of times,
All right, I was going to ask you how many times, but dozens of times?
probably more than 50.
Okay, all right. So you have I asked you to review the videos in this particular game, or
Yes.
this particular case?
Yes, you have.
Those are the videos that you've been in court all day, right?
Yes, I have.
We watched those videos and you've seen those before.
Yes, I have.
Okay. And are you familiar with the games that are being played on those videos?
Yes, I am.
Do you have similar games in your laboratory?
Yes, we've evaluated many games by vanilla games.
Okay. So at this point, I would qualify Mr. Farley as an expert in the area of electronic gaming mechanics, specifically as an expert in the field of game classification mechanics and analysis.
Would you? Yeah, I object. Number one, I have nothing from Mr. Farley. I have no CV. I have no report. I don't have anything that shows that he has any knowledge of these games directly. Furthermore, I don't have any information from him, especially what was just given, that he has knowledge of these games as it pertains to Michigan law. He's talked about stuff in Las Vegas, New Jersey, all over the country, Ohio, but not Michigan. And Michigan laws are drastically different than other states, especially Las Vegas, all these other states. So for him to be an expert in something that doesn't pertain to Michigan law, I think is inappropriate, and I'd object.
Can respond?
I can ask him if he's familiar with the,
Please do.
are you familiar with Michigan law as it relates to redemption games?
Yes, I am.
Are you familiar with that redemption statute?
Yes, I am.
You reviewed it.
I am.
Your Honor, I would suggest not, I don't know, not in a poor way, but I would suggest that you're probably familiar with the redemption statute as well. However, I don't know how to classify you as an expert in these games based on your position, your understanding of the redemption statute here today. Same with Mr. Farley. I don't think just because he's familiar with the statute doesn't mean that he would be an expert in this area. I maintain my objection. Again, I was told a couple days ago that he might be called as an expert. I didn't get any information as to what or as to any information that would be relevant. I just received a CV as of 3 seconds ago. I don't believe it's appropriate.
Yeah, well, it seems to be a theme in some aspects with regard to the exchange of information, but I believe that given that, as mentioned a couple of days ago, given that he has testified that he's familiar with the statute, given that he has testified as to the years of experience in the field, as an opinion witness, I'll recognize him and then note your objection. Please proceed.
Thank you. Okay. You've indicated you've reviewed the 2 videos taken by investigators in this case.
Yes, I am.
All right. Have you reviewed some of the reports done in this case by the MCB?
Yes, I have.
And I'd like to walk you through, if I can, or ask you, I suppose, how this game is played. And we're talking specifically about the Red Hot Buffalo game. Okay. All right. So can you give the court kind of a general description of how the Red Hot Buffalo game is played?
Certainly, I'll do my best to describe it. A player approaches the game, inserts money into a bill acceptor. The money is displayed as credits available for gameplay on the terminal. The player, and then it comes up with a home screen, what we call a home screen, which gives the player an option to select from one of 5 different game themes. One of the game themes is the Red Hot Buffalo theme, which the officer played in the video. Once the game theme is selected, the player can select the amount of credits that they wish to engage in gameplay. That can range anywhere from 25 cents to $20, depending on how the game's configured. I believe the officer said he played at the $3 level. Once you select that, you can press the play button. The reels will spin and stop on a losing outcome. Every time you play the game, it will be a losing outcome. It's up to the player.
So let me stop you there. So you hit spin, the reels spin, they stop, and it's always a losing outcome.
Always a losing outcome at that point, yes.
All right. Is there a timing aspect to this game?
Yes, there's a timer that is displayed in the upper right-hand corner of the reel display, just outside of where the reels are, right?
And was that demonstrated on the videos that you observed?
I did see it in the videos, yes.
Okay. So what happens if you let that time go out?
If you let the time go out, you lose.
Okay. If there's, you indicated the reels will set always on a losing puzzle.
Yes,
If there's a winning puzzle, is there a, well, let me ask you this. It's set on a losing puzzle always. Is there anything you can do to change the combination of the puzzle?
yes, you can nudge one of the reels up or down to try to improve the display there. Try and align three like symbols on the pay line, which is the middle line. If that's done, and you can do that, you win.
When you nudge, what does nudge mean? What do you have to do?
Nudge means you're moving, you're taking if you nudge up, you take the symbol from the bottom line and move it to the center. If you nudge down, you take the symbol from the top line and move it to the center.
Does the player physically have to do anything to nudge, to make it move?
Yes, he has to touch a target. The target says raise or lower, depending on which direction they want to go.
Okay. And sometimes is the target illuminated?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And that target could be a raise or it could be a lower?
Yes,
Okay. And if there's a winning proposition, is it illuminated?
yes, it is. If there's a short of winning proposition, it is illuminated. It's what we call a hint.
Okay. So if there's a hint, can the player pick that option?
Yes,
Can the player pick a losing option?
yes.
Either by mistake or not paying attention?
By mistake, intentionally, not paying attention. I know during testing in our lab, upon occasion, I'm not paying attention and I hit the wrong button and then I realize, oh, I had a winner there.
Okay.
So it happens.
All right. So if you lose by nudging,
Yes,
is there another option? Is there another feature?
yes. If you lose by nudging, there's a bar on the bottom of the screen that gives the player the option to either press play to continue or touch the bar to follow the bananas. That's what the bar says.
Okay, so then the player has the choice if they have a losing game
Yes,
and they nudge to lose.
yes, they have a choice. They can make the choice to engage and follow the banana or to ignore it and play the next game.
Okay. If they ignore it and play the next game, they just lose.
They just lose.
What happens if they don't and they choose to follow the banana?
If they choose to follow the banana, the screen changes. It comes up with a gorilla and a 3x3 grid of bunches of bananas. And, well, even before you get the 3x3 grid of bananas, it comes up with the instructions on how to play follow the banana. That it's going to illuminate groups of bananas and you have to follow the sequence as it advances. And if you engage to the end, you'll win 104% of the cost to play the game.
Okay. So let me kind of back up a little bit. Do you know if the game at Hills Tavern had the follow the banana feature?
Yes, it did.
How do you know that?
In the second video taken on April 10th, 2024, I believe was the date, there was an instance where the officer nudged to a loss and the camera captured the bar at the bottom of the screen. And you could see where it says the bananas.
Okay.
Which would be the phrase, touch here to follow the bananas.
In a review, of the gameplay that was videotaped, was the whole screen visible the whole time?
Not in the officer's video. The bar on the bottom of the screen was not visible very often.
So it's just kind of happenstance you caught it at that one time?
That's correct.
All right. So you know that the follow the banana feature was available in the bar at Hills Tavern when the investigator was playing.
That's correct, yes.
All right. So then, if I can summarize that, when you play the Red Hot Buffalo, you start and it spins the reels. The reels stop and it's in a losing position, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Then you can either choose, if it's a winning, if you have a win, you can choose the hint and win.
Yes,
Or you could choose the nudge, hit the nudge and lose.
that's correct.
And either way, if you nudge and lose, then you have the banana feature, follow the banana feature.
Right. You can either intentionally lose, or if there's no possible win, you can nudge either of the reels and you would lose, and then you have the option for the follow banana.
Okay. So as far as following the banana, you heard Mr. DeClerc testify about how he operated the banana game.
Yes,
Was that a fair description of the Simon says kind of follow the banana?
yeah, much like the game Simon, where, you know, it has illuminating lights. And you have to, it increases with more and more lights over with each round of play. Yes, it's just like that.
Okay. Now, does it take some, I don't know how to say this, pattern recognition, dexterity, memory, these kinds of things to play this banana game?
Yeah, the banana game, having testified as often as I do, I've worked with some professionals that have taught me some of the terms of art with skill, and it requires dexterity, fine motor skills, memorization, and it just, you know, you have to be quick at it because there's a time.
Oh, there's also a time on this? on the
Yes.
banana.
Yes,
Okay,
the banana game also has a time.
all right. So if you're quick, you have the dexterity, I guess, coordination, the memory, or the technique to finish that game, you can win 104% of the bet.
That's
That would
correct.
testify. Okay. So if you use all that skill, you can win every game.
Yes, yes, every time. If you can get through all the gyrations of it, you have the patience, the skill, hand-eye coordination, you can win every time.
Okay. So clearly, the officer that testified that played these games was unfamiliar with certain features of the game when he played.
Yes, he said he wasn't paying attention to that, was my recollection of his testimony. And it seems to me that he just wasn't aware that the follow the banana feature was there. And he made no effort to try and read the bottom bar as it displayed follow the banana.
Is it possible to play a skill game like this without skill from the player?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's part of the skill is can you intentionally lose or can you know, play the game without skill? In a game like this, you can just, what we call in the lab, mash the play button, where you're just constantly hitting the play button, trying to advance to the next game and not try to engage in the follow the bananas, not try and nudge a reel to try and improve your outcome. Something like that.
Okay. All right, and the game that we saw is single player game, is that right?
Yes, it was.
Is it considered, is it an electronic amusement device involving a game?
I would, yes, that's how I would put it.
Does the object of the game involve placing your finger against the computer screen at the proper time and the proper location on the screen?
Yeah, I would say touching the correct target. So you'd either have to, during the nudge phase, you'd either have to touch the correct target, which would be the illuminated arrow for the correct direction if you have a potential win, or during the follow the bananas to touch the target of the banana that was illuminated in the sequence that it displayed.
Okay. So if the player has the skill and knowledge to win the banana feature, can the player win every game, every game?
Yes.
And so if you're using your memory, dexterity, knowledge, things you talked about, winning every time would not depend primarily on fortuitous or accidental circumstances beyond the control of the player.
That's correct. Yeah. There would be nothing fortuitous about engaging in follow the banana. If you did it correctly.
Okay. Is the outcome of the game determined through the application of at least an element of the player's skill by the player?
Absolutely, yes.
And all of that would be consistent with the redemption,
Yes.
750.310B.
Yes.
Nothing further, thank you.
That's the order we took. It's been a while since I've had. It's been the 3 months, so.
No, I'm going to adopt Mr. Hill's questioning and answers into the record for my client.
Oh,
Save some time, Judge.
I thought maybe just bookending the government.
Two cracks at the same apple.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Just going over your CV here. What experience do you have in Michigan?
Well, like I said, when I worked at GLI, I was involved in opening some of the casinos here, doing inspections of the games. I am aware that they've adopted the rules and requirements for the tribal casinos, at least Nevada or New Jersey. So if it complies with Nevada or New Jersey, it can be used in tribal casino here in Michigan. And I was engaged in a patent infringement case probably about 20 years ago.
Okay. And you said you're familiar with the Redemption Act.
Yes.
How did you become familiar with the Redemption Act?
Through this case and through another case involving, I believe it was the Ionian Moose Lodge.
Okay. And did you testify in that case?
I did not, I have not yet. I think the case is still open.
Did you write an opinion in that case?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you have a copy of your report?
I do not have it with me.
Okay. Did you do any type of report in this case?
No, I was not asked to.
Okay. When did you first view this game?
I believe I was provided the videos I know I was provided the videos just a week or two ago.
Okay. And your testimony here is just based on those two videos that you saw?
Two videos that I saw, Mr. Newberg provided me a video of a game in the warehouse.
When did you get that?
The other day,
Okay, so just recently.
yes.
All right. And
And I've examined vanilla games for probably the last 15 years or more.
okay, were you familiar with the banana game prior to Mr. Newberg giving you that video?
Yes.
Okay, how are you familiar with that?
We've examined vanilla devices for many reasons in many jurisdictions, some of which are regulated for sure.
All right. And you'd agree that the standards for a casino game are different than anything else, correct?
Yes.
And the idea that a gaming machine that would be okay in a casino may not be okay in a bar or restaurant or somewhere like that.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, your understanding of the Redemption Act basically comes from just its facial review. Is that accurate?
I was provided with the act, I reviewed it, and I applied it to what I saw in the video and what machines I have in the lab that play similarly. In fact, we found a version of software that had the exact 5 games, and we were able to configure it with the same features that we saw in the video.
All right, we're gonna go back to that in a second. First of all, I want you to tell me the case law you reviewed related to the Redemption Act.
Case law?
Yeah.
I don't recall getting case law out of it. I just got a copy of 710. I think it's 710.310B.
Okay.
I think that's redemption.
Okay, and tell me about the administrative rules of Michigan.
The administrative rules with regard to
The gaming machine,
casino gaming in Detroit.
just the gaming machines in general, yeah.
Well, I mean, in general, as Mr. Westnell said earlier, gaming devices have 3 elements: consideration, chance, and prize.
Okay.
It's universal.
All right, you'd agree that these three, or the games that you reviewed have those same 3 elements?
There's the chance element's removed with the follow bananas feature.
The chance element is removed.
Yes.
So you're telling me that there's no, well, first of all, what type of system is used in this game to create a win or loss initially?
So there's multiple phases to this game. The first phase is the nudge, what I call the nudge. And there is a finite pool of predetermined outcomes that is delivered sequentially from the pool that presents the puzzle which is always a losing combination, for the player to try and nudge symbols up or down to try and align three like symbols on the center line.
And the value of that is predetermined as well, correct?
The prize value is predetermined and that, based on that prize, the puzzle's presented.
So there's nothing a player can do to change the value of a potential winning.
Other than to go through the follow the banana.
Well, if it's a potential winning, there's nothing they can do to change that prize value.
Just again,
If a person were to have a positive nudge, like a winning nudge, correct? Like it's illuminated, let me just,
are you changing your question?
I'm not changing my question. Question is when given a winning proposition,
Okay,
an initial winning proposition, there's nothing a player can do to change the value of that winning proposition,
I disagree.
okay?
So the player, if the player is giving a winning proposition, that being an alignment of losing symbols on a reel with the potential to raise or lower one of the reels to align three like symbols on a line, the player could either take the hint, which is the illuminated icon, and get the predetermined prize, or the player can intentionally lose and nudge in a wrong direction or nudge the wrong reel and intentionally go into the follow the banana feature, in which case they would get 104% if they succeeded at follow the banana. So they could change the result of a winning prize by making a wrong decision and losing and getting nothing, or making a wrong decision and going into follow the bananas and succeeding and getting 104%.
There's no way a person can increase the value of their winning prize when given a winning option.
I don't know if there are any winning options less than 104%, so I wouldn't hazard to answer that question. Because it is possible that 104% may be a greater value prize than what's being presented in the nudge. In fact, I believe that the officer played a game for $2.50 and won $2.50, which would only be 100%. So if he were paying attention and performed the follow the bananas feature, he would have won more money than he was presented with his nudge option.
Now, you'd agree, though, that follow bananas feature can be turned on and off, correct?
Not by the player.
No, I didn't say by the player, I just said you turned on and off.
There are older versions of software where, with the keys and the codes, you can get in, you can enable, disable the follow the bananas feature. Newer versions of the software do not disable the follow the bananas feature.
Okay. And software can be worked around, right? I mean, you worked around the software and were able to get your games to be the same as these games, right?
I didn't work any software. We had a version of software in the lab that we had previously reviewed that was configured with the same game teams, and we set it up with the same setting.
But you'd agree that the game settings were different on the first October play than they were on the April play, correct? You think they were the exact same?
I can't tell. In the first video, there was no recording of what was happening in that lower bar to tell me whether the follow the banana was there or not, and the officer did not try to engage in using the follow the banana, he did not nudge to lose, and he just kept what I refer to as matching the play button. He just kept on using the play button to try to advance to the next game, and when he couldn't, then he realized he had a nudge, and he would usually select the illuminated icon to win.
You agree there's no timer in the first game?
I don't agree with that. I do believe there was a time.
And you reviewed the videos.
Yeah, I thought I remembered seeing a video, or a timer in that one.
But there's the nudge buttons were not required to be pushed every time in the first game, correct?
Yeah, I don't believe that you had to nudge with every gameplay. I think that you were able to press the play button to move on if it was a loss.
All right.
If it was a losing.
So that would be a difference in the game, correct?
That could be a difference, not necessarily in software, it could have been a configuration option.
Okay, so there's configuration options.
Yes,
Who has access to those configuration options?
whoever has the key and the passcode.
Okay, and so anybody who basically owns the game or has control of the game could be able to alter those plays whenever they want, basically, correct?
They could change a finite number of configuration settings. One of them is called action required. That is the feature that enables or disables the requirement to nudge with every gameplay.
Okay, and were you able to determine how much payout, the percentage payout there you had on these games?
I wasn't asked to do that, so I did not even bother looking at it.
Can that payout percentage be changed?
I don't know. I'm not certain.
Okay, you don't think that's important to know?
It's a skill game, so I mean, the payout percentage is just a measure of if you play the nudge game and that's all you play, then that's gonna be a payout percentage. But if you play that strategy, which is to only nudge on positive prizes that pay more than 104%, and if there is no prize or a prize less than 104% to go into the follow the bananas feature, then you're guaranteed to make more than 100%. And if you have a group of players engaging in gameplay that way, you know, whoever's running these games could potentially be upside down.
Now, the winning percentage, could that be configured?
There's nothing that I've seen that a player can do to do that other than to engage in the follow the bananas and get 104%.
Can it be configured by an owner operator person with a key?
I don't know.
Can the follow bananas feature be configured?
Follow the bananas feature, as I mentioned earlier, in older versions, there's something called choice on loss. In older versions, that enabled or disabled the follow the banana feature. Now it's just always enabled.
Can the nudge feature be turned on?
No.
Can the nudge feature be adjusted in any way?
You can turn the hints off.
Okay. Can you turn whether you have to, like we saw the two different games, correct? Do you think, do we know if these were two different machines? Do we know if they were two different softwares? Do you know if they were two different?
There was nothing in the video that was clear on what version of software was being used, so I could not determine what software was in on either occasion. At one point, when he first selected the Red Hot Buffaloes, in the lower left-hand corner, there's a version associated with the Red Hot Buffalo theme, but there was not a clear image of it, and I could not make that out. And it's only up there for 15, 20 seconds, then it goes away.
But those nudge bars or the requirement to push the nudge bars were being configured. You'd agree with that at some sort?
Yeah, there's a configuration option called action required, which tells the machine whether it's mandatory to nudge in order to move on to the next play or select the follow the bananas feature, or to allow the player to move on without nudging.
Are you able to turn the nudge timer on and off?
That's my knowledge. I think he can adjust the amount of time, or, yeah, I think he can adjust the amount of time, but I don't know if he can turn it on.
Now, you want to tell me that you believe that there's no chance in this game? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think chance predominates over skill. I think that the nudge is a skill, and I think the follow the banana is 100% skill.
And that's just your opinion?
That's my opinion based upon 37 years in this industry and at least 30 of those years testing skill-based amusement devices for game classification, in courts of law, or for regulatory compliance.
But not in Michigan. Correct?
Well, I mentioned that I wrote a report for another matter that hasn't gone to trial yet. And I mentioned with my previous employer that I've done work in Michigan and I tested games for Michigan.
Just based on the video review you did, are you able to tell for certain whether or not the game that had the banana feature that you watched, banana feature game, was the same as the one as the video you watched from October?
It was the same game themes. They were all 5 game themes. They were presented in the same location. And they were played in a similar fashion with the exception of, it seems that the action required feature was enabled sometime between October and April. Whether that was the same machine, same software, I don't know for certain, but it was definitely the same game theme and it played the same way.
All right. So just to be clear, there's a random number generator in this game, right? Or you said a
There's no random number generator in this game.
there's a predetermined prize pool in this game that's selected by a set course of prize winnings, right?
There's a predetermined pool of potential outcomes that's used to present the first phase of gameplay, that being the nudge.
Okay. And there's nothing any player can do to change that initial outcome, correct? That's presented to them.
Other than to intentionally do something.
This is asked and answered. We've gone over this several times.
Just trying to be clear in terms of what we're talking about.
Okay, other than to potentially make an incorrect decision and lose or force.
But
them
no,
into the follow the bananas feature.
aside, that's not what we're talking about. There's nothing a player can do to change the outcome presented to them, correct? Just the simply thing that's presented.
The
to
nudge
them.
outcome is what's presented.
Right, and that's gonna be the next one presented, and whatever's located behind that one is gonna be the next one that's presented to that player, regardless of what the player does in the game before, correct?
Correct.
All right, and that player then has the ability to choose to select a nudge, or to not, or that player has options of what they're gonna do next, right?
Correct.
All right,
The
and
nudge game has 6 options.
and those options will either determine whether and so the options that they are presented with though are a winning option, a losing option, or in your opinion, a third option where they can go and just play a different game, correct?
So when they're presented with the nudge feature, there's 6 options available. You can nudge either reel up or down. So there's 3 reels up, 3 reels down. If there's a hint feature, that means that there is a definite win presented to them. So there's 1 winning option and 5 losing options. Depending on how the game's configured, as we saw between October and April, if action required is enabled, the player has to play through that nudge feature in order to move on to either play another game or engage in the follow bananas feature.
Alright, so it takes the player an additional step to reach their winning outcome if presented, correct?
If the nudge game has a potential winning outcome, the player has to nudge the correct wheel in the correct direction.
Alright, so there's a step that the player has to take to do so, correct?
Correct.
Alright. Now, if the player is presented with a losing option, where there's nothing they can do to make what they see in front of them a win, you're saying that there's a third option for them that's presented where they have an opportunity to win back the money they played,
Plus 4%.
plus 4 cents.
That's the follow banana. Yes,
Okay.
104%, yes.
And where are you getting the 104%?
Well, it's in the rules of the follow bananas.
Okay.
It's kind of known in the industry, it's 104%. If you're playing at 25, and the reason it's 104 is that the lowest denomination to play the game is 25 cents. So in order to win anything measurable, 104% is exactly 1 penny in addition to 25 cents. So that makes it 26 cents.
You're playing for the option to win potentially a penny.
At 25 cents. If you're playing at $1,
And
you're
you're-
winning
and you're-
$1.04. If you're playing at $20, you're gonna win $20.80.
Yeah. You'd agree, though, that the initial game, the initial presentation to you is nothing that you can, as a player, there's nothing you can do to change that, correct?
The initial presentation is determined by the finite pools presented to the player, and the player only has the option to nudge one of the 3 reels up or down.
Right. And there's nothing that player can do to change what's presented to them,
That's correct.
correct? In addition, there's nothing that player can do to change the presented value of a potential win, correct? Other than going through the losing steps, there's nothing a player can do to change the potential value of a win.
This is
correct?
like the 3rd time or 4th time we're on this question. It's been asked and answered multiple times.
Just trying to understand his position as an expert. If you think it's redundant, Your Honor, then I will shut up.
If you're gonna end there, or if you're just following that through with just 1 or 2, that's fine. Or
I will be.
since, were you on the Ionia case that he testified to?
No.
Okay, fair. If you want to just, if you have a couple more questions, it's fine. If you're following through on that.
At least not yet. If I, so,
Okay, I meant at I guess it was at the prelim stage.
no, I have not dealt with that case,
All right, fair enough.
if that was the question.
That just came to mind as he was,
No,
so
but
recognizing that you're only notified of a couple days ago. If you have any more questions related to it, allow our scenic tour, I guess, through this.
so no amount of skill, I guess is my point, is going to change the value of that win, correct?
Well, the prize that's presented is picked from that finite pool. What the player has control over is either winning that prize or losing that prize and going for the follow the bananas feature.
Correct.
Now,
And
there's strategy behind that.
that's not what I've asked. The simple
Well, yeah,
question,
you did ask me that, because you're trying to get me to say that the player can't change the outcome of what's presented to him from the finite pool.
but I didn't say
And I'm
outcome.
telling you
I
that,
didn't say outcome. I said, there's no way that players, any skill, can change the value of that prize.
well, I think it is the player's skill that determines whether they're going to play for that prize or go for the follow the banana.
That's a choice that the player's making.
Right, and
Absolutely.
as I saw with the
But that's
second
not
to
a skill.
last play, I saw that the second to last play on the first video of the officers video on October 4th, I believe it was, 2023, that he had a $2, he played $2.50, and he had a $2.50 winner that he nudged for $2.50. Now, an astute player would have realized that if I threw that $2.50 win away, I could have went and played Follow the Banana for $2.60. And made 10 cents on that. And that's all I'm saying. So the player can use their skill and knowledge to do better if they have a potential prize, a potential winning prize that is less than 104%.
You agree you're not throwing anything in this game?
No, I'm not throwing anything.
Not rolling anything?
Not rolling yet.
Not bowling?
Not bowling.
Not shooting?
Not shooting.
Not placing?
I would say you're placing.
With you're placing what?
You're placing your finger on a nudge or a banana to try and either move the reels up or down. So you're placing that reel to a new position, or you're placing your finger on the appropriate bunch of bananas when you're following the bananas. So I think you're placing.
So anytime you use a touchscreen, you're placing. That's your testimony.
You're placing or you're hitting a target, whatever language you like. But I think 310B talks about placing, not necessarily target.
All right, so you'd agree that if I push the play button, I'd be placing my finger on the play button, correct?
It does
There-
take dexterity to hit that play button.
And therefore I'd be placing. That's your association.
You're placing your finger on the play button, but I'm really talking about placing the reel in the proper location if you're nudging one direction or the other, or placing your finger on the appropriate bunch of bananas when you're following the bananas.
All right, you're not propelling anything. You're not stopping a ball or any other object.
That I'm aware
Okay, you're not putting the ball in a hole or anything like that.
of. No.
All right. Aside from this, aside from the nudge and aside from the banana feature, you consider this a slot machine, right?
I never said that.
I'm asking you.
You asked that in a phrase and you finished with the word right, and I never said that. So my answer to you is no.
Why not?
Not a slot machine.
Why not?
The element of chance is eliminated by the follow the banana feature.
I said if we're eliminating the banana, we're eliminating the nudge. In all other features, this is a slot machine, correct?
Judge, what's the relevancy?
Yeah.
If it's not this game, then it would be a different game, right? Well, sure. But
Because
it's,
Your Honor, these other minute details are small nuances to try to remove this game from a overall general slot machine. And if we can, and I think we can agree that in all other aspects, this is a slot machine. We're just trying to add a couple little nuances to move it outside this realm. It's trying to get around the law.
No, I'm going to sustain the objection. I think we're here based on what is brought before the court in the complaint warrant or the complaint. And those are the facts that we have to deal with.
All right. Well, you'd agree it's an electronic gaming machine.
It's an electronic gaming device that utilizes skill to determine the outcome of the game.
And you'd agree that there is a sense of gambling involved in the sense that there's money in and money out, correct?
Well, there's no gambling.
There's money in and money out, correct?
Consideration and prize do not constitute gambling. There has to be an element of chance, and I don't agree with that.
And you don't agree because you think that there's a element of skill in the predetermined outcomes.
There's an element of skill in the nudge, and there's 100% skill in follow the banana.
Nothing to do with that.
Any redirect?
yeah, I'll redirect. I'm gonna handle the redirect. It's gonna
Okay.
be real close. It's gonna be real quick, Judge. Okay, thank you. Mr. Farley, how are you?
Doing well.
Good.
Thank you.
Do you remember the Attorney General's office asked you about whether or not you had known about the banana feature prior to this case?
Yes, I do.
And you said that you had worked, I think you said you worked with Vanilla Games for a while.
Quite a while, yeah.
You've also testified in some litigation in Pennsylvania.
Yes, I have.
And did that litigation in Pennsylvania involve the banana feature?
It did. The follow the banana feature was a critical element to the court's ruling in favor of the game.
Okay, and it did it have some nudge features as well, that game in Pennsylvania?
It did.
Objection to relevance to what Pennsylvania law has to do with Michigan.
I can tie it in, Judge, if you want. The Attorney General asked, Mr. Farley if there's any case law in Michigan that he's been involved with. The answer is no. The only case on point that involves this game is in Pennsylvania. Same game, same features, and Mr. Farley testified there. So I think if he's using that to undercut Mr. Farley's credibility, I
But
think he's-
different legal standards.
right, it's much higher in Pennsylvania.
Well, but if I guess we can talk about case law during the argument, but if it's reference to testimony that was brought forth on cross-examination, I think it's proper. So if that's where you're going, I'll allow the question.
Okay, thank you. It had the same nudge features. The game in Pennsylvania had the same nudge features as it does in this
Yes,
case.
it played the same way. There was an initial presentation from a finite pool delivered sequentially. The player had a nudge. In the first phase, if there was no win or they nudged it correctly, they were entitled to go on to follow the bananas feature as an option.
Do you remember what the name of that case was?
It was, I believe, the state of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus Pinnacle Games, something like that. They refer to it as a Pinnacle case.
Okay. All right. And do you recall what the standard in Pennsylvania was by chance?
Yeah, it's predominance of skill.
Okay. And what was the conclusion after your testimony in that case?
Yeah, again, I'm still objecting, like, I don't see what we're moving on to, like, talking about case law in Pennsylvania in relation to a different statute in Michigan. Don't see how we're.
Isn't that something that would argue, I guess, at argument, that we would have at argument as far as more of a legal argument? I guess if it's relating to what he knows about the machine and how it applies in this case, I'll allow it.
Okay.
I guess what I'm summing up is people can choose to play in different ways. Is that my understanding from what your testimony is and what I'm hearing from the testimony of witnesses? Or not your testimony, but your question. So if we can just relate, if it's to that fact of what's going on.
In the Pennsylvania case, same options available to the player.
Yes,
Okay. And the banana feature was the same. The bananas would flash in a sequential order.
yes, exactly the same.
Player could choose to engage that feature.
Yes,
The player could choose to ignore the feature.
correct.
The player at the nudge options initially could choose to push, move the reel up, correct?
Yes,
Or down?
yes.
Any differences between the game, in this case with the game in Pennsylvania, in the Pinnacle case?
Just the themes that were offered, but it was played the exact same way.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
I guess since I bloomed a little bit with my statement, any recross?
You haven't had access to this game, correct?
I have not, no, I have not had access to this specific game.
Okay, and the only thing that you're doing is basing that your belief is.
Judge, I think this is beyond the scope of my.
You just went on and on about it's the same game, it's the same thing in Pennsylvania, like, I'm trying to make sure that's clear.
No, no question.
You didn't have access to the actual physical machine, correct?
I did not go to the actual physical machine. I did bring up a machine in my laboratory. with
That was
the exact
similar.
same, the exact same game themes.
Sure. And you don't know what features on this machine were turned on or turned off necessarily, or what was done in October versus what was done in April, correct?
Well, in what I had in the lab, I was able to simulate both operationally how it worked in October and how it worked in April. And it's a configuration option called action required. We enabled action required and it worked like it did in April where you had nudge on every gameplay. Disabled action required and it allowed the player to just hit the play button and play through without having to nudge after a losing combination.
And you'd agree that there were versions that had some bananas with the option and some did not, right? That it could be turned off.
Well, there's older versions.
Older
where
versions,
you can
right.
Disable.
Right, and you said you didn't know the version that we were dealing with here, correct?
I did not see the version information. in the
Okay. And so to say that the features would be the exact same as another, you don't know the exact way this one was configured because you never had access to it, the machine itself, right?
Not the machine that goes down.
Okay, and you just tried to simulate as best you could what you had in your lab with what you saw on the video reels, right?
Yes, and then we based that upon what was at the Ionian spot.
Okay,
We were able to get that version of software in the lab. So we brought that version up and had the exact same game.
No, the machine at the Hills Tavern had the banana feature on it.
That's correct, yes.
And there are no different versions of the banana feature.
There are no different versions of the banana feature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further witnesses?
No, Judge.
Well,
No.
what do we want to do?
We'd like to brief it if we could for the court.
Does that sound good to you as well, given the last witness, maybe, I don't know if that would help to review. There was some case out of the state that was mentioned.
We'll bring it on.
Okay. How would you like to handle then, want the court to issue a written opinion, or do you want to come back for argument on the?
yeah, I don't think we need further argument, if we're gonna write briefs, if the court wants to have us back and issue an oral opinion, that's fine, if you wanna have us back, or if you wanna issue a written opinion, I don't care, whatever you prefer is acceptable to people.
Well, first, let me thank counsel for your, both counsel, or both government and defense counsel for your arguments. Given the quality that they seem to believe in, probably I'll be able to issue an opinion. If I'm unable to, then I'll just do an argument. Maybe we can do it by Zoom, so you're not all having to travel. But I would imagine, given what I witnessed from all three counsel, that I just hope my opinion will be able to match the quality. So we'll do it that way then. How do you want to handle timeframe?
You're the judge.
Well, I guess I'm not the first court you all been in front of.
I was just gonna say,
What works best?
what we did before, Your Honor, in the other cases, we had 3 weeks, which is fine. And I think then once the government received our brief, they had 2, something like that, to get their response. And then the court had us back for an order. But so if Mr. Hayes is good with 2 weeks or after he gives, I don't really care. But we had 3 weeks to initially get our response. That way he had an opportunity to respond, which is the burden that he, the burden carries.
Given I'm not sure what your caseload is, does that work for you?
You don't wanna know what my case was.
No, that's why I guess I'd ask, if 3 weeks sounds like it's enough for them. If you need 2 or 3 more, or you need 3, or I'm fine with whatever works for you. So,
Whatever you need from me, Your Honor. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably largely already written in the sense that
okay,
we've done this before.
yeah, yeah.
So there's definitely gonna have to be some tweaks and adjustments, but
Are you gonna want the testimony before you?
Yeah, yeah.
So that, I think,
That's a kick in the.
I think that's gonna then, why don't we do this? Once you get the testimony, why don't we go 3 weeks and 2 weeks after they receive your brief? So there is gonna be some time with the testimony.
Okay.
And I think that would, one is fair. 2, I have a chance to, I don't want to say hoard my cases, but I certainly, I don't want to use the word procrastinate. I like the word hoarding better than letting it sit there, but I think that'll work best. It'll give the court more time.
And
Anything?
Before we go,
Yes.
yeah, one quick question, Judge. My client is looking to travel to Mississippi from March 17th to March 21st. That's if the court allow that, for that amendment to his bond condition.
I generally don't have an issue unless there's an objection from the state. I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you, Judge.
So, all right then. I look forward to